haven't seen your kids. Well, the last two. It's been how long since they left?
March 19th, 2015.
Okay, so that's almost 2 years. Well, about a year and 9 months at this point.
Right.
So you went up to Iowa, and you eventually had a hearing. Is that correct?
Had my hearing. At one of those times when we went, the judge, I think it was in September of this year, we had it scheduled for a 2-day hearing. He says, you have too many witnesses, we're turning it into a 3-day for the money. So, yeah, it was a 3-day hearing, 7 to 8 hours long each day, November 16th through the 18th. On November 16th, my ex was allowed to sit up there for 7 hours straight and call me names. My lawyer never objected to anything.
Now, was this a lawyer that you hired, or was it?
Yes.
Okay.
I hired, and actually paid him $15,000 so far, and now I think I owe him another $15,000. So because of that, never objected. My ex even told the judge that he had his phone shut off, him and the 4 children, and that he believed it was me shutting off these phones. One of them I don't even have her number. I have no contact.
Right.
But that's not something that I would do.
Right.
Ever. But the judge, when they hear this, they believe it.
Right.
Or, I don't even think they believe it. They just let the lies go.
Yeah.
Really. So, on the second day, all 4 of my children were subpoenaed to testify against me. I figured that was my only way of ever seeing their faces again, because I didn't get that chance 3 years ago with the older 2.
Right.
And mind you, my rights were not terminated 3 years ago. What happened is I was primary all these children's lives. The judge just said about the older 2 that had not seen me in 5 months because the isolation kept it from me, that my ex would get primary and I would just be joint legal. But he put in there that the children did not have to see the plaintiff if they chose not to. Okay, so I got a similar order this time around.
So wait a minute. Now, how old were the children at the time that they did that?
15 and 17.
So they're letting minor children make this decision.
Right.
Okay. And right now your younger 2 children are also still minor children?
Right. They're 16.
So basically they're, okay.
So this is about when it happens, I think. But so my ex even told my mother, after these kids left, these twins, March 19th, she visited March 30th with a witness, and he said, I will get the same judge, and I will get the same order. He got pretty much the same order, but a different judge, same county. So when we go in there, my ex actually asked for primary. He did an emergency custody, or modification of custody, in April of last year, just 3 weeks after he took them. I in turn had hired an attorney in Texas named John Paul Chidgey, Chiddgey, and I just found out 2 weeks ago that John Paul Chidgey did not file notice of appearance. That is why I never got served with that emergency custody order until it was too late. So that hearing went on without me, and they changed jurisdiction to Iowa, which they shouldn't have, and that kept me from my children, basically. So he didn't file notice of appearance, but yet he showed up at a jurisdiction hearing with my ex's Texas attorney, Todd Durden, and they decided that jurisdiction is being changed and that I'm not going to see my children without me being there, without his notice of appearance. So virtually, he's a stranger to the judge representing me. And the judge never questioned it. That judge is Jesse Navarez. So while I'm on the stand in Iowa, I'm learning this because the opposing counsel states you didn't have an attorney on record in Texas. And I said, yes, I did. And I started thinking, what is she talking about? So that's when I went to check. You know, I just assume when you pay a lawyer, they file a notice of appearance. They're not. I don't believe they're registered e-filers in Texas, and I am in Iowa, so I see everything. But down here, you don't. You have to keep going down to the courthouse. Now, I would see on the docket special appearance, which I always thought was him. That was actually me. because I had the judge file writ of habeas corpus and other things, but that was only my name was on these things, these items. That's before I retained him. So I retained him the following day. He never filed that notice of appearance.
Wow. So what was the final decision up there?
So final decision was that I don't get to see my children at all. The judge did not allow me to have my children testify against me, even though 2 months prior he said that he would allow that. I objected to it. I said in Iowa Rules of Civil Procedure, it states that if a parent objects to the children being in the chambers, then that's the way it is. He said petitioner's argument is duly noted, and he said I'm going to do it anyway and just bring in a transcriptionist. He walked away, and as he was walking away, I asked my lawyer, I'm not going to see my kids. He had the judge come back, and he says, hold on a minute. If Jodi doesn't see these kids and they don't testify against her right here on the stand, this is her last day to ever see these kids. Now, mind you, this is Thursday. I still had to go through Friday for the third day. So I turned to the lawyer, what do you mean this is my last day? Have you already made up your mind? And I said, was this already decided when my kids got on that airplane? And I believe that's true. So after the judge walked out, I left the courtroom and said, I have to touch my kids. I have to hug them. And at that point, it had been 615 days since I've seen my twins, and 3 years and a month since I've seen my daughter that was out there. Ironically, my son was not there because he's talked to me a few times in the last 6 months, so they don't want the judge to know that there's a bond there. And so I went out, and my daughter freaked out and said, you're in my personal space, you're in my bubble. She's 20 and a half, and she just started screaming at me and panicking, and I'm like, I don't understand what you're doing. And I said, I just want to tell you I love you. My door's always open, and what you're going through, I'd like to get you some help. And she just kept calling me names and saying I was crazy. The dad comes out and starts rubbing their shoulders, and he states in front of all these witnesses, there's probably 15 of us in that hallway, and states, you don't have to talk to your mom if you're scared of her, which is alienation behavior right there.
Right, that's...
The deputies, an abuse advocate, went and got the deputies and told him to back away so I could at least talk to my kids. And I wasn't trying to put words in their mouth. I knew they were getting ready to go talk to the judge. I did none of that. I was just simply telling them they're beautiful, I miss them, and I just wanted to see how tall they were. I asked them if they would stand up, and they would not. They just stood there like this. I asked if I could get a hug. They wouldn't even nod their head or shake their head, nothing. So I walked across from them and put my head in my hands and just started bawling. And my friends told me to just give up. And they said they're too far gone. And everybody in the hallway is bawling. And I said, I can't take it anymore. And I walked back across the hall. You know, they were just about 12 feet away. And I said, I can't take it anymore. I have to hug one of you so I can function. And I was hugging the one that had brain surgery 2 years ago and asked her how her head was and if she'd been to follow-up appointments, because I heard that she was not. And then I said, do you want me in your life? And do any of you three want me in your life at all? Let me know right now so I know to quit fighting, because I'm already up to so much money. And they wouldn't answer. And so I said, will any of you give me a hug? They wouldn't answer. So I begged them, please just give me a hug. Just one of you give me a hug so I can go on. And the one twin that was sitting sideways had already been crying. And she grabbed my arm like this, if you can see me. And she looked up at her dad and made sure he wasn't watching. And she just rubbed my arm. And so I whispered to her, is that you hugging me? I don't understand. Are you hugging me with like this? And she went like this. And I said, do you want me to keep fighting? Do you want me to keep fighting, Kylie? She goes, yes. And I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep fighting for you. And I'm fighting for them and their future children. This is just going to keep going on. They went into the chambers right after that. And my lawyer came out and said 80% of the things that they said about you was glowing, that you're a great mother. And I actually admitted to the judge that I've never abused them. And, like, it was just more talking about, I yelled at them, really, was what it was. I took their phones and just embellished kind of stuff, but said I'd never done anything prior to. And my lawyer came out and said the 80% of the glowing reports was great, but the 20% was credible. And he goes, I think the judge is going to rule against you.